Number 6 is to make eye contact with your audience. Make eye contact with your audience. Have any of you ever heard the old advice, when you're giving a speech, don't look at your audience, just look directly above them. The top of their heads, at the back of the wall, just over their heads, the back of the wall, and they'll think that you're looking at them. Have you ever heard that? Several of you have. I am here to tell you that that is the worst possible advice that anybody could give you. And the reason is this. Subconsciously, what that does is it confirms that you should be afraid of these people. Don't look at them. They're going to hurt you. Don't look at them. You should be afraid. Just don't look at them. I want you to look around the room at each other right now. Look around. Look around at each other. Turn in your seats. Look at each other. What do you see? People and familiar faces. Yes, because we've been in class together. Yes. But familiar faces. Just people, right? Any big, hairy, scary green monsters in here ready to gobble us up for dinner? There's no green on him whatsoever today. None. No. Just people, right? People like you and I. Yes. And in here, are any of you exempt from giving a speech in this class? Anybody not have to get up and give a speech? We're all in the same boat in here, aren't we? I don't think there's a single person in here that would rejoice at your failure, who wants you to fail and not do well in your speech. They're all in the exact same boat that you're in. And so what I want you to do when you get up to give your speeches is I want you to look in the eyeballs of as many people as you can possibly look at in your audience. Because it reminds you that they are just people, just like you. They're just people. Now, audience members, that requires something of you as well. They have to have eyeballs to look into. Okay, so look up at them when they're speaking. If you can be kind and maybe give them a smile of encouragement, that kind of thing when they're speaking, that's always a nice thing to do as well. But look directly at them. Connect with them. You're talking to them. You're having a conversation with them, remember? You're having a conversation with them. So look directly at them and remember that they're just people. All right, last but not least, number 7 is to use visual aids. When I click on the next slide, what are you all looking at? The next slide. So while I want you to make direct eye contact with as many people as you can, sometimes it's nice to have a break from that too, for just a second, isn't it? Just for a second. To have all their eyes just off of you for just a minute. A visual aid provides you with that break, so you can kind of take a breath and, compose yourself just a little bit. The other thing that it really does is it builds your confidence as a speaker. Would you rather listen to a presentation where somebody had a visual aid or somebody who just stands up in front of you and speaks? Visual aid, okay? So you're going to have a better presentation if you have a visual aid than if you don't. I personally would never get up to speak in front of a group without having a visual aid. I guess I should say most situations. No, I personally would never get up without having some sort of a visual aid. If you find yourself in a situation outside of this classroom where you have no technology, which I have found myself in because I've done guest speaking at different occasions, then I try to take an object of something, something related to what I'm talking to, but something that I can use as an example, as a visual example, rather than them just standing there or listening to, sitting there listening to me stand there and talk. Some sort of a visual aid. I will say that there are certain exceptions to that rule. I had a student one time who was giving a speech about domestic violence. She was a survivor of domestic abuse. And so she had some pretty good stories of, people, and not just her own personal stories, but other stories of people who had been in abusive situations and how they had gotten out of it and what you could do about it and how you could help them and all that kind of thing. It was a great speech. It was wonderful. But she had no visual aids. And that was fine because she was very sincere. She was very appropriately enthusiastic for her speech. And what would she have had a picture of? Somebody who's all beat up? I mean, we already know what that looks like, right? So I don't know that we need to shock people with those kind of images. Sometimes that's appropriate as well. But her speech was very appropriate to not have a visual aid in it. And so sometimes it's appropriate to not, but in general, I would make sure that you always have some sort of a visual aid.